Okay, welcome to session D. This is page 18 of the PPro Summer Workshop. And I do want to hit the bonus activity from the previous session just real quick. So one of the options you can do whenever you have the Essential Graphics panel pulled up is, as long as you're not clicked on the text, okay, so see how I'm clicked on it? If I click off of it, so just click off of it on here and then just click on the box but not on the text, notice that right here it says intro duration, outro duration, and roll. If you want to do like a closing credits scrolling thing, that's called a roll, you just check this button. It's so easy. And then when you drag, it just rolls. And it rolls based on...
Simply remember to breathe.
It's based on the time, the length that this is. So if I want it to go really fast, I can make this shorter. And if I wanted it to go really slow, I would pull this right edge out and make it longer. And of course, it automatically starts off screen and ends off screen, but you can change those things as well. Now, I don't want it to roll, but I just wanted to show you that's that little bonus tidbit that was provided in that last session. All right, session D. We're getting into special effects and effect controls. We touched the surface of effect controls here on the left in the last session. Now we're really going to dig into it and dig into adding effects. So for this session, we are going to switch workspaces yet again to the effects workspace at the top. Now what you're going to notice is it looks very similar to our previous workspace. The effect controls is on the left. If we were to double click something, they would open in the source monitor on the left. On the right hand side though, we have the effects panel. If you click on the effects panel, it opens up. If you close it, it closes. And if you click below it, you still have access to Essential Graphics and Essential Sound. So you still have access to all of these ones that we've been using, but effects is there and it's on top. We're going to keep that one expanded so that we can use it for this particular session. With effects, if you know the category you're looking for or you're just not sure what you're looking for, you can click and open and then look through all these different categories. Okay, so it's different things in here like mosaic and posterize. And if you've had like Photoshop experience, these are some of those things that are sort of artistic that you would see in there. Or if you know what you're looking for, you can literally type it in up at the top. So if I'm looking for like a crop effect, I could type the word crop in here and it would say, here's two different ones that have the word crop in it. And then I can hit the X to get out of searching. So just know that that is a feature up there. Now, we're going to scrub our playhead to be around the 23-second mark for this next part. So right at about 23, which is kind of in the middle of this just breathe thing, if I can get it. And by the way, you can press the arrow key on your keyboard to back up single frames, or the other arrow, the other way, to go forward single frames. So if you're having trouble hitting the frames, use your arrow keys. That's also a way to go frame by frame. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to double click on our words, because now that we're in the middle of that 23, we're just going to double click up here where just breathe is, because I want you to see that you can change these. So I'm going to say just be still, because that's what I actually say during that part. And then again, I'll have to recenter it. So back to my move tool or my selection arrow here, click back on it. Essential Graphics is still right here, right? So I can click on it and then I can center that again. Okay, and now it's centered. It's all back to normal. I can close Essential Graphics and pull back up effects. You can always edit your text from the monitor. Okay, now we're going to add a whip video transition. It looks pretty cool. Right now this transitions by just going flowers, text, and we could do something just a little bit different here by using a transition. So transition, if you're familiar with, PowerPoint, it transitions how one slide goes to the next. So same thing in Premiere. It's how two things that are next to each other go from one to the next. Now my just be still is next to nothing on its line. In video 2, there's nothing before it. So we're talking about going from nothing to being there. So that's what this transition will do. But if you did use a transition between two clips, it would transition from one clip to the next clip. Okay? So it's just kind of an animated way to get from one thing to the next. So for here, we're going to find the whip transition. So we want on the just be still graphics clip, I have that clicked on, and we're going to locate that whip transition. You could type whip in here, or I give you what's under video transition slide, and then you'll see whip in here with a bunch of other ones as well. In order to use a transition, you just simply drag it and drop it onto the clip in the timeline. So I'm going to drag whip and drop it right here onto the clip in the timeline. I'm going to drag it to the beginning of the clip. If you drag it to the end, it's going to add it to the end of the clip. We want it to come in that way. So I'm going to drag it to the head of the clip. A little easier to see if you zoom up, so maybe I'll zoom up a bit, but you should be able to see it says whip right there. And that means that's how long, just like with audio transitions, this is how long that transition will go. It's a little too long. If we watch this, it like takes forever to get in there.
Just be still.
Right? And so we can just grab a hold of the right edge of it. I'm just going to go about half the distance that it was, so that it only takes about a half second for it to transition in. That's a little better. Okay? So that's it. That's how simple those transitions are. And you either add them to the head of the clip or the tail of the clip, depending on what you're trying to do. All right, now we're going to add a transition that's actually between two clips. So we're going to go between birds and flowers. So I'm going to come over here, birds and flowers, and we're going to use the film dissolve transition. Again, it's under video transitions and then dissolve, film dissolve, or I could have typed the word film up here and it would have found it for me. I'm going to take this transition and drop it between birds and flowers. So technically it'll be on the head of the flowers clip. See that? Drop it in and it's on the head of the flowers clip. But if you preview it, watch what's going to happen here. It fades in from the one clip to the other. Since our clips all are technically longer than they are, and we just pulled different little pieces of them, it has some additional footage there to overlap.
Soak in.
Okay, that looks good. And that's pretty much that. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm a big person who likes to save all the time. Now, one thing to note, at the very top of the timeline, if you look carefully, there's a yellow bar. That's the render bar. When it's green, there are previews for everything. If it's yellow, that means what's happening is when we're watching it play back on here, sometimes it might stutter or stop for just a second or jump. That happens sometimes when it's yellow, and it for sure happens a lot if it's red at the top. That's your render line. If you have red, you can press enter to render. If you don't, you can go to sequence and render in to out. And what that does is it goes through and it generates what are called video previews for everything. So you'll notice it's turning my bar green. And that means it's going to play real time. If you have a lot of effects going on, it's kind of a good idea to render more frequently so that your effects play through and everything is real time and plays smoothly. So it's not like it's a super urgent thing to do, but I like to have green on there as much as I possibly can. Okay, so this is page 18 of session D. Join me in the next one.